Welcome to the Prophecy Club. You know, I wish God would talk to me more. I wish He'd tell me the things that I want to know so that I could tell you, so that I would be certain that they're accurate. But sometimes, no, many times, God keeps His secrets very close to Himself. And He won't answer my questions. I suppose you have the same problem, right? So I'm about to say something that God has not told me, but I believe it to be true. And that is, our topic today is, I think. I said I think. God hadn't told me. It's not a thus saith the Lord. I'm giving you my opinion. And I could be wrong. I've been wrong before. But I don't think I'm wrong in this. I think that in 2024, it's going to be the start of the second Great Depression. That's what I sense here. Again, I pray every day, Lord, what do you want to say on the program? You're the only one that knows the end from the beginning. You're the only one that knows what the people, including myself, need to hear. I want to know the truth. I want to speak the truth. What do you want to say to them? Well, it kept coming to me in here. And by the way, that's the way we're supposed to really be hearing God, from the still small voice, okay, in here, okay? What I get is that the Great Depression back in 29 is about to be nothing compared to what is about to hit the world. And if the bad guys have their way about it, it'll be a lot worse. And if the white hats their way about it, it'll be short and get us out of it. But either way, I think we're heading to it. So 2024, the second Great Depression. Now, I've got some, sad to say, very good reasons why I say that. Now, first of all, I've covered this many times, okay? But I'm going to cover it in a way that at least I had not seen before, and I'm going to dare say probably you didn't see either. And I think it's, again, sad to say, I think it's a further confirmation that we're about to see China invade Taiwan. Now, if it does not happen exactly on the 24th, if it happens within a couple of weeks of that, I think we should probably say Vicky heard right. And if it doesn't happen, I don't necessarily think, please, don't throw rocks at me. I'm like you. I'm a watchman. My job is to warn. If I see a sword come, to warn. Now, prophets are required not to miss, but a watchman is required to warn. Go read it, Ezekiel 33:6. All right, so anyway, the point I want to make with this, and we're going to go back through this more in detail. I'm going to actually read the whole thing that I've never read before. I heard him describe this on another TV program recently, and he said some additional things and some other things I never heard him say, and so we're going to talk about it. So, essentially, here's the quick overview before we get into the deep part. March 25th, 2022, Chris Reed said he saw a man standing with a $50 bill in his hand, tore off a third of it. He saw newspaper headlines afterwards. We'll cover those. Then he saw what was left of the $50 bill, that's part of the different part, torn in half. Then he saw these newspaper headlines. And then, at the end, he said he saw a totally new dollar bill. Now, this is a $50 bill. And he thinks that this represents the 50 United States of America. And when I get to several new points today, I think you're going to agree. All right. This is what he said. I saw a man holding a $50 bill. Looks like that, okay? Representing the 50 United States. I believe it represented the 50 United States of America. He tore the $50 bill in 3 stages. Each time he tore the $50 bill, someone began handing me newspaper headlines. The first thing he did was tear off a third of the bill. That's important because both Coverstone, Sklar, and Shane Warren all said that they saw the dollar fall first by 30%. So that's 3 people. Well, including Chris, that's 4 people. The dollar will fall 30%. And he said, then the next headline was, dollar drops 30% in value. The subtitle was, Middle East oil strikes deal with China instead of the U.S. Now that matches what Shane Warren was told. Shane Warren was told that when they start selling crude oil in another denomination other than the dollar, it will crash the dollar. So that's almost exactly the same thing. And here in just a second, I'll show you the exact words as Shane Warren was told too. Then he tore off a third of the bill and the dollar dropped 30%. Okay, so tearing off a third of the bill means the dollar is worth a third less. So what does that mean? That means that all of a sudden America is going to be like all the other nations on the earth. And if you've been to some of the other nations, they just don't have any money. I just ministered in Honduras. They don't have any money. People are eating, but just barely. And I've been to Singapore, Malaysia. Now they have more money than Honduras. But the whole world outside of America has about 30% less. So what this is going to do is put us on an even par with most, not all, but most of the other nations of the world. Let's go on. Then he tore what was remaining. That's a new part. What was remaining of the $50 bill in half, and people were troubled by economic situations and strain. Then the next headline handed to him was the perfect storm, inflation reaches new high. Now, see those words right there? Perfect storm, those are exactly the words John Paul Jackson used in one of his newspaper headlines. So once again, the things you're hearing here, folks, look, I know a lot of people don't want to believe what I'm saying. They don't believe God talks like this, and if they do, they don't want to hear it. But at some point, sad to say probably soon, God is about to shake them. He's about to shake this nation. And there's going to be a whole lot of people wish they'd been listening. And if you have already sent them to this, then they would be calling you, saying, all right, you have my attention. What else was said here? Perfect storm. Okay, what is a perfect storm? Well, the perfect storm is when 4 different storms merge on the same part or the same place. In other words, it's when more than one bad things happen at a time. So when we're looking at the devastation of the Palestinian state, which brings the New Madrid fault, that's one storm. The dollar falls, that's another storm. China invading Taiwan, that's another storm. And that brings the perfect storm. Inflation reaches new high. That's the reason I say what I'm picking up to tell you here, and I'm not a prophet. I live with a prophet. I worked with a lot of prophets. I know what prophets are. I know what they look like. I know what they sound like. I'm not a prophet. Yes, I have given 5,000 personal prophecies, but I can tell you they are not on the level that Leslie gives. Leslie gives a prophecy, and she has people all the time coming up here, oh, let me tell you, what you said came to pass. Often. Me, once in a while. I'm not on Leslie's level. I know that. Now, the next headline was food shortage. I think we have either 12 or 14 different dreams, visions, or audible voices saying food shortage. What I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, this is not a Chris Reed thing. This is a God thing. He's spoken this to many different people because God does not give all the information to one person. He spreads it out. Why? Well, because that's his confirmation. Okay, we got 66 different authors that wrote the King James Bible. So how do 66 people all have the same words? That's the same, well, because it's the same God. Okay, let's go on. Food shortage. Crisis at wheat and bread imports are at a stalemate. So it tells you what's going to cause it. Now, there's probably going to be many things. Again, a perfect storm causes a food shortage. The next headline was riots and civil unrest as citizens demand entitlement checks. Those words, entitlement, that was exactly what Shane Warren said. He said he saw, now he got this in 2010, Shane did. He said he saw people holding up signs that says, we want our entitlements. Bingo. Every one of these things, you can count on it. Take it to the bank. They'll cash it. Write it in stone. It's going to happen. Now, since we're talking about food, I'm going to tell you again, look, if you do not go, I do not know of a better way to have long-term storage food. Joseph Kitchen. I've hit on it so many times. If you haven't gone there, I'm just going to tell you straight up, I think you're making a mistake. Yes, there's a lot of people who sell a lot of kinds of long-term storage food, but nobody can beat Joseph Kitchen's prices that I've seen. Because the machine package, you can feed 6 people for a year for less than about $1,000 a person at Joseph Kitchen. Go check it out. They got videos explaining everything. I started the company. I gave it to my daughter. She's running it, doing a fabulous job, and her husband. Good people, go to it. All right, let's keep on. So the first time he tore a third of the $50 bill off. The second time he tore what was left off. Now, okay, so 30% is gone. So that leaves us 70%. So the next one would be like 35% drop. Then he saw the headline, Israelis and Palestinians reach a two-state solution. Well, that matches exactly what Leslie Johnson was told when she says Omer ushers in Palestinian state. Only hers is more specific because it tells us it's probably going to be this year. I've covered it many times, so I'll go on. When I saw the second headline, I felt a major earthquake hitting the middle of the United States, and an earthquake happened under my feet. And, here's the new part, the next headline read, Major earthquake hits the middle of the U.S. Now, here's the new part. When America went along with the dividing of Israel, God caused an earthquake to literally come right down the middle, dividing the United States. I didn't see the full extent of that, but I saw an earthquake hit the center of the U.S., and it was from God in response to American forcing a two-state solution. It was either 12 or 14 different people that have seen exactly the same thing. And it's always, we split Israel, God splits America. We split Israel, God splits America. At the end of this conflict, see, there hasn't been a war since 1967. Yeah, I mean, I know there's been skirmishes they've had, but I'm talking about an all-out war. They're saying this is a war. They're calling this Israeli-Gaza war. I think the war was the hand of God with the purpose at the end of the war to give Israel back their land. Won't be immediate, but I do think they will give the Palestinians a state. I do think that it probably is the counting of the Omer. I do think that the headline will read, Omer ushers in Palestinian state. And the Lord showed me these June 14th of 2008. He showed me Leslie holding up newspapers with those 7 headlines in it. I absolutely positively know those are, look, what I'm telling you, this is the second depression starting. Now, it's starting. And I remember I told you I had 5 dreams in 2 weeks. And I told you one of them was, I answered the phone. A lady said, you need to make a payment. I said, I don't have the money to make the payment. She says, you need to start selling things. Okay. So I have sold things. I have cut our expenses, lighten the load. So what I'm telling you, I personally have taken some major action to reduce my expenditures. Why? Okay, I'll tell you why. Because I mentioned this once before. When I went to Honduras, they broke my heart. They broke my heart. I can't talk about it because I start crying, but I came back and I was determined to help those Christians, help those churches, help those pastors. So I've sent some money. Matter of fact, it got me in a financial jam once, but I don't care. The kingdom of God is about putting other people first. And I said, no, they need this more than I need it. Even though you folks sent it, I don't care. I sent it. Now, what I believe, God has warned me to lighten the load because I helped those folks in Honduras. So he's saying, okay, you help them. Now I'm going to help you. I say that because I want you to listen to me. I want you to know I'm trying to get you to believe me. I'm trying to get you to get yourself prepared. I don't know what it is that I would have thought that I needed to start selling some of the things I just sold. I almost started crying over one of them I had to let go of today. Believe me, there's about to be depression. I'm not saying it's coming this week. I'm saying it's coming this year. And that's not a thus saith the Lord, but that's what he's done with me in here. I'm telling you, get ready. The third time, he tore it in a bunch of little pieces. Okay, let me go over this, make sure you get it. Okay, so the $50 bill, at first he tore off a third, meaning the dollar falls a third. The next time he tore it in half, but the last part of it he began to tear into little pieces, symbolizing civil war, symbolizing states would begin to fall away and would secede from the United States. Here's what it says. He tore it into a bunch of little pieces. He was tearing it, showing division among the states. I feel like it's going to come from people coming across the southern border. That's the way it is. When God speaks to you, you get extra feelings sometimes that you can't exactly explain. That's what's happened here. Some are looking for a better life, true. But some will cause an outrage among the American people. Americans won't want to be under the federal government as is, and it's going to require a great reform economically and socially for our nation. You call it an internal revolution, just like Dimitri said. Now, let me make another point there. The angel was very specific to Dimitri. He came to Dimitri. He said, now, so you'll know that I'm truly the angel of God, I'm going to tell you when you'll be exiled to America. And he told him the year, month, day, and hour. July 22nd, 1984, 10 o'clock in the morning. He said, for 4 years, he said, I carried Bibles. We watched that date. By that date, we were all packed up, sitting in the living room. Knock came at the front door, and they said, how'd you know? He said, God told us. They went to the airport, July 22nd, 1984, 10 o'clock in the morning, just as the airplane is backing away from the dock. Now, if he was that specific when he sent Dimitri here, I got to wonder if he's going to be that specific with the prophecy that followed about 30 days later, August 3rd of 1984. The angel came to him and said, the fall of America will start with an internal revolution and all of that. Now, he didn't say 40 years from then, but 40, rainy 40 days and 49. So look up 40 in the Bible. There's a lot of 40s, and there's always judgment. So if you add 40 years to August 3rd, 1984, it comes up to August 3rd, 2024. I do not know if the internal revolution will start then, but I'm certainly going to be watching it. It appears that a lot of things, a perfect storm, is coming in 2024. A second Great Depression, probably that's going to make the first depression look like a picnic, and there was a lot of starving people, but the difference was 80% of the people in 1929 lived on farms. 80% of the people were Christians and helped the other 20%. But today, 80% of the people live in cities that don't know how to grow. They don't know how to fish. They don't know how to hunt. They don't know how to take care of themselves. And they will see that they are fed before their brother is fed. So we have a problem. And that problem is about to hit. I'm trying to tell you. Please believe me. Then I saw something like a $1 bill. But it was like a cell phone. Like a $1 bill. I knew it was a cell phone, and the headline said, a new currency for a renewed nation. Well, that's exactly what Terry Bennett said. A new currency will come, at least one. He was shown that back in 2010. Then Shane Warren was shown the same thing. We're going to get a new currency. Then the next headline was, simplicity restored as Americans grow their own food again. Why would Americans start growing their own food? Because they'll starve to death if they don't. Meaning, Coverstone seeing people standing in line, Terry Bennett seeing people, many people, that was there 14 different prophecies saying that people could be standing in line, starving. It was like after a shaking, it will bring about a new united nation again with a new currency. I saw a conflict. Now this is part of the new stuff. And this answered a big question. I saw a conflict in the South China Sea. China would try militarily to attack Taiwan, and that America should pray for our U.S. Navy. So right now, we need to be praying for our U.S. Navy because probably, if Vicky's right, inside the next year, or inside the next week, our Navy is going to be over defending Taiwan. If she's right, it's about to happen. Our Navy is going to need our prayers. Okay, I saw a conflict in the South China Sea. China would try to militarily attack Taiwan, and America should pray for the U.S. Navy because the U.S. Navy would be right in the middle of it. And that's what Vicky Goforth Parnell was told too. Taiwan, we've been told a lot of different times, a lot of different ways. I'm just saying it's time. See, I know what happens. After a while, listening to Prophecy Club becomes entertaining, maybe a little, what's the latest conspiracy theory? But what I'm trying to say is, don't just listen anymore. I made some major sacrifices this week because I know God talked to me. I hope you're believing that I'm telling you the truth. Get ready. And for that, I'm going to recommend you call 800-200-GOLD, especially if you have an IRA or a 401k. Look at those things, most of them are in paper, whether it's stock market or this or that, it's paper. So in a depression, they're going to lose a lot and possibly even totally go away. These guys specialize in helping you take your money in your 401k, your IRA, out of paper and putting it into gold and silver, and it can be stored close to you. They get it as near as they possibly can. Give them a call. Remember Lindsey Williams said, if your money's in paper, it's worth the paper it's written on. All right, let's go on now. So here's another Chris Reed. I saw an internal revolution happening in China. I never knew this. This is new. And this answers a big question, which is what he also said here, okay, back here. I saw an internal revolution happening in China. The below-ground church was about to see above-ground results. So much of the saber rattling when a nation is in decline or having internal turmoil, they usually try to start a war to distract off the internal domestic dissatisfaction, like Taiwan. Not only did the Lord show me that, but he also is exactly why so much was allowed to be released from there a few years ago. It's because they were trying to keep people indoors from rioting. At least that's what the bug was. I can't say the word. The bug was there. The Lord showed me there was an internal revolution bubbling in China. And that was back in October the 1st on Thanksgiving Day. That would be 2022, I believe. The tragedy where people were welded shut in, because of the zero bug in their houses and their apartments. A fire started and burned 15 provinces in China, and people were rioting, and it was all over the news at the end of November. The Lord was showing me that this is the beginning. That's exactly what he told Vicky Parnell too. This is the beginning of a revolution in China. An internal revolution is coming to China. Now, let me tell you why I think that's interesting. Because Vicky said that China is going to go against Taiwan. And Dmitry Duduman was told the fall of America would start with an internal revolution in America started by the communists. Some of the people would start fighting against the government. The government would be busy with internal problems. Now, here it is. Then from the oceans, Russia, Cuba, Nicaragua, Central America, Mexico, and two of the countries would attack and defeat America in 1 day and 1 hour. Then God would raise up China and Japan, and many of the nations that would go against the Russians and defeat the Russians. Now, that's the part that disagreed with Vicky, because Vicky was saying, oh, no, China's going to attack Taiwan. And then there's going to be a skirmish between China and America. And then the other prophecy said that when America goes to war with China, Russia will strike without warning. Well, it makes sense to me. But so it brought it down to, are you going to believe Vicky or are you going to believe Dmitry? Well, I'll choose Dmitry, because I knew Dmitry really, really well. There's some other extent. Anyway, I knew him. But if there's an internal revolution in China, and this is what it's about to say, I haven't got all the way through it, that would explain it perfectly, how China could attack Taiwan, and then down the road, after the revolution, after the good guys take over in China, that's what she's about to say, that would explain why China would be on our side. Okay, let's go on and read the rest of the prophecy. He said that when you see Xi Jinping fall, you'll see that that's the sign of an internal revolution. The Communist Party will lose power. Are you listening? The Communist Party will lose power, and China will devolve into states or separated sections. You might say that with varying degrees of democracy, democracy is coming to China. Well, that would explain to me why God would raise up China, Japan, and many of the nations that will go against the Russians. and defeat the Russians and back the Russians at the gates of Paris, where they sign a peace treaty, but they make the Russians their leader. Then, under the leadership of the Russians, all the world goes down to attack Israel, Ezekiel 38 and 39, and then they cry for Messiah. Jesus returns on the clouds and defeats the armies of the earth. Now, I'm running out of time, but this fits, so I'm going to try to get to it. This is only the 11-year-old of one of the members of our congregation that didn't want to be mentioned, but I've met the boy. I met the dad. And in the dream, over at my grandfather's house, he said he woke up. He has a t-shirt on that says, "Cash is king." Grandpa's favorite saying, in the dream, I sensed that the dollar crashed and was no good anymore. Dream cuts, this is an 11-year-old, okay? He doesn't know prophecy. He doesn't know what he's saying. He just woke up. Matter of fact, they quizzed him several times. Had him give the dream back and forth several times over the period of several days. And the dream didn't change. So, I believe, probably more than his parents believe, he's hearing from God. Dream then cuts to people walking on the street with nice clothes on, but somehow I knew money-wise they were poor. Somehow I knew this was a depression like in the history books. Great Depression, okay? Only people had nice clothes on instead of old clothes. Means it happened real fast. I saw in the hands of people an electronic device about the size of a cell phone. If you turn it sideways, it was a checkbook, but all digital. I've never seen anything like it. It was like an iPad and a cell phone mixed together. This 11-year-old. But it was not a cell phone. You could not play games or apps or make a phone call. In other words, it was only for buying and selling. It was strictly for currency. You could buy anything if you had enough of this digital currency, but you could not sell anything. Not everyone had equal amounts of this new currency. Only people like President Biden and Elon Musk were very, very famous people, had a lot of this new digital currency. Only a few of your average people had very little, just enough digital currency to buy basics for one day of their lives. Well, that's straight out of a measure wheat for a penny, a measure barley for a penny. In other words, a day's wages for a day's food, or a day's food. You work all day long, just enough food to eat or to live. The rest of the people had no digital currency, but still had the digital checkbook, but nothing was in it. Then the dream cut back to Grandpa. My grandpa says to himself while looking out of the window, "There is no way this is happening. There are too many rules in place." Then the dream cuts back again, and me and Grandpa are in a war zone. I said, "Grandpa, get down because people are shooting at us." The soldiers had blonde hair and blue eyes with very pale skin. I couldn't tell what country they were from. We had dived into the trench with American soldiers, but the foreigners captured our area and took Grandpa prisoner. Somehow they knew that he had a lot of cash. Well, how would they know? Because it's all digital, because they know what he's got. I was lying in the trench scared. Somehow I knew Grandpa had died of stress, and I felt bad for my grandpa, and the dream ended. One more. I'll go a little long to do this one, but the Lord showed me an American flag. The flag transformed into a $100 bill waving in the wind. This is straight out of what Coverstone says too. Suddenly it transformed into a digital code, almost like crypto code. It was moving like it was alive. It was like an internet math code. It kept moving and moving, and I said, "Lord, what is this?" The Lord said, "The dollar's about to turn into a digital dollar." He said it would be worth half, are you listening? Half what it's worth right now. And the mouth of two or three witnesses let a thing be established. So a $100 bill would be worth $50. Then he showed me the banks all went bankrupt. All the money that was in the banks, whether you were rich or poor, the banks seized it all. All the money in the banks was seized. It was now the property of the bank, and I don't know how, but somehow they seized all the money in the banks. People lost it all. 1-800-200-GOLD. Call them. prophecyclubgold.com. Loans that you have on your house and your cars and everything, I saw that they took all of it. They took it all. It was a debt jubilee, they called it, because they couldn't foreclose and take everybody's houses and everybody's cars because the dollar crashed. They just wiped it all out, created a whole new digital platform. They created a new digital dollar. Then the Lord showed me lines of people standing at Target stores trying to get food. They weren't dressed like they were in poverty-looking clothes. Same thing the little boy saw. They still had nice clothes on. It was like the money they left just suddenly. It was just happened overnight. Same thing that David Phillips said. People were in lines at Target and Walmart. Lines were like a mile long. There was no products. There was no food there. There was hardly anything left in the stores. People were waiting just to get whatever they could get. Same thing that Byron Searle said. I could see them all in a single line that stretched forever. He showed me certain cryptocurrencies that would go up in value. He showed me certain things that would happen with gold and silver. Well, Shane Warren said that silver will skyrocket far more than gold. He showed me the euro. The euro would be in trouble because of what was going on with Europe and this Ukraine war. It was all going to happen like dominoes falling one after another. That's the perfect storm. And that's the reason I just had to go on. I know it's a little long today, but hopefully it's worth it. Then let me remind you the dream Leslie had back in May 22. The dream started with Stan and I being warned to fill our car with gasoline. Immediately we went to the nearest gas station, which was a convenience store. At the store was full of people. Right after Stan filled our tank with gas, other cars arrived trying to get gas and food. We left, but watched from a distance. The store manager was yelling, "There's no more gas." People were running out carrying as much food as possible. They emptied the store of everything. Sitting in a car nearby, we watched as people began to fist fight, push, shove, and many pulled out their guns. Several news helicopters were filming the scene. Then, military helicopters arrived. Truth rappelled down to the ground to get the chaos under control. That evening, we watched the chaos from a distance. So I'm telling you, look, I am preparing. I think, I keep praying, Lord, if there's anything else I need to do, show me. And of course, he just showed me. I hope you're doing the same thing. Lord, is there anything else I need to do to get prepared? So here you go. Go to josephkitchen.com for your food. prophecyclubgold.com for your gold and silver, especially if you have an IRA or a 401k. Go to empshield.com and get you one of these devices to put on your car and one on your house so your computer chips don't get fried. Promo code prophecy. Go to prophecyclub.com to get our DVDs and my books. WatchProphecyClub.com is the streaming, and that's where we will be posting the new Prophecy Club Unfiltered programs when I have them. So this is what I'm going to conclude with. I suggest you pause and write every word on this page down.